Hello, I'm Steph from iDriver Classic, and today I'm showing you a vehicle that I have actually never seen in the flesh before, so I'm very excited to be here. It's the Vauxhall Victor FE Estate from 1973. Now, there weren't very many of these at the time, and yet this one has somehow survived. And it is so glorious to see it here today. It was a Facebook marketplace, spontaneous decision, but as I've said in many videos before, life is too short to say no to the car you've seen on Facebook marketplace. Now in today's video, if you've never watched one of these before, we're going to take a look around the outside, we're going to take a look under the bonnet, we're going to have a look in the back and see just how much room there is. And remember, there was over 50 cubic feet of space with those back seats pushed down, so there's an awful lot of room in here, and we're going to take it out for a drive as well. Now remember, the Vauxhall Victor was once Britain's most popular exported car, so this is a car that will probably look very familiar to many people across the world, including my friends in India that probably see the Contessa when they see this. But anyway, we'll get into that later on in the video, but first of all, let's have a look around the car. To set the scene for you, when the FE Victor came to market, Vauxhall was in a very different position in the UK sales market as it is now. So British Leyland and Ford held the top two spots, and then Vauxhall comes in a respectable third place. Now they were really keen to hold on to this position after fighting so hard for their market share in the 60s. They'd begun work on the FE design in the late 1960s, they were inspired by the American styling, and that's not unique to Vauxhall. You see that come through in all the brands as you come into the early mid-70s. And the idea of the FE model was to compete in that upper mid-sales market, coming up against cars like Ford's Corsair. But here's the thing, it never matches the same sales timeline, but it gives you a bit of an insight into what kind of customer they wanted. Of course, Ford pull an absolute card, don't they? And they start going down all different tracks. But anyway, coming to this point, it's worth mentioning that Vauxhall isn't a standalone company. It's owned by General Motors, and it was owned by General Motors until I think the 2010s. But you know what else they own? They also own Opel, and that's really important to this story because Opel have been working independently on their own offering for the new decade, and all the ideas come together. Now GM decide that whilst they've signed off the styling of the FE, they're going to ditch the FD platform, which was underpinning the FE, and they're going to replace it with Opel's V72 platform. Now if you want to see this in use, you can just have a look at an Opel record. You can start to see some of the similarities. And as well as that, GM start to see what other manufacturers are doing. Like Ford, they're combining their UK and German arms to quietly bring together a united, universal effort. And GM are quite inspired by that, and they look at the Opel Record and they bring in its bulkhead, they bring in its front door assemblies, the front screen layout and other bits and pieces. Though interestingly, they don't carry over the rear quarter lights from the rear doors, as you see in the Record. Now, I think that's a bit of a miss, because although they were going for that really clean, uncluttered styling in the FE, I think it would have just added something, especially to the estate. However, this Opel inclusion doesn't take away from the early design ideas, and in fact, the longer wheelbase and wider track gives rise to a little something extra. An attractive estate model, which of course is what we're driving today. Now, when they created the range, they then dub it the transcontinental, and the idea of this is to try and help sell into overseas markets, because remember, as I was talking about in recent videos, everything's changing. You've got the rise of Japanese cars, you've got home markets that have loyally bought into British brands for decades that have started making their own attractive propositions. So they're starting to lose market share abroad, and so they need to come up with ideas around this, and this is Vauxhall's idea. And with that, they give the car a grand overseas launch. And look, journalists say it's great, good in fact, especially compared to the outgoing model. But they feel that it falls short of setting the world alight when it's held up to the competition and the word transcontinental. Now, I don't think, controversially, this is a failing of the car. I think this is a failing of Vauxhall's marketing team, because I think they've really tried to set the car up for something that it isn't, because it sells so well on its own merit when you take it out. It's a dependable all-rounder, you've got comfortable surroundings, attractive modern stylings, you can keep up with traffic if you go for one of the larger engines. It really is everything a buyer needs in the car for the new decade. trying to sell it and trying to market it is something completely different, and reinvention the wheel really doesn't sell it for what it is. And I think that's totally not a failing of the car. That's my personal opinion. And you know what, as well, I think the estate is one of the best estates of the 70s, from the styling to what it offers. So it offers 58 feet of cubic space with the rear seats folded down. And if you have a piece of furniture that's 5 foot long, you can slide it in and you're not going to chop the passenger's head off. It all fits in. It's brilliant. I think the offering is great. You'd be hard pushed to find something modern today that gives you that much space without having to go for a van. It's brilliant. Now, there were several engines on offer for an FE Victor. I looked at a brochure from 1973, and the options given to you are the 1256cc engine, which gives you 62.5 brake horsepower, the 1800, which gives you 90 brake horsepower, and the engine fitted to this particular model, which is the 2.3, also known as the 2279cc engine. We're just going to refer to it as the 2.3 throughout this video, and that gives you the 122 brake horsepower. If you go for the Ventura, of course, you get that 3.3. Now, in the literature, the estate's given out at the dealership. The dealership gives out the literature at the time. We only see two options for this estate. You could pick the 1800 or the 2.3. Now, it's worth mentioning, because I'm trying to be really fair, even though I love this car, that the 1800 might have been overlooked by the buyer of this estate because the reviews for the 1800 model weren't smashing. And in fact, What Car magazine tested it against the Marina, the Maxi and the Cortina, and it was found to be the slowest to do 0 to 60 in just over 16 seconds. But, you know, realistically, in the overtaking, it overtook the Marina. So I think, well, you can't get it all. Sometimes you need the space and comfort. And personally, I think this is more comfortable than the Marina. However, it's not all about speed, is it? And quality plays a part too. And Vauxhall had learnt from the mistakes of the early F-Series Victor, which we tested, by the way, quite a few years ago, so you can go back and watch it. And the corrosion concerns on that particular car were thoroughly addressed. And in this, you have an 11-stage anti-corrosion treatment, including complete underbody seal and chassis protected inside. Can't really complain at that. They've done all they can. Now, as for the suspension and handling, dubbed average by the press, but I think stands up well against competition at the time. Its rack and pinion steering and suspension is coil spring with positively loaded rear axle with anti-roll bars. And as for your brakes, they're power assisted with discs to front and drums to rear. Now, when the range came to a close in the late 70s, it wasn't a proper goodbye, because Hindustan Motors in India had obtained the rights to create the Hindustan Contessa, which, look, is a whole other video in itself. But let's have a look what we've got inside. Coming inside here, I just want to issue a quick caveat that this is a car that is used and driven every single day. The owner, in fact, has no other car. In 2025, this is his only car. So please be mindful when you're looking at the interior and you're thinking, might do with a little bit of a zhuzh up here and there, that this is someone's daily car. And when it is your daily car, it is so difficult to take it off the road, because what on earth do you rely on? So bravo to the owner for driving this every day, using it every day, enjoying it. Life is very short, and I think that it's very easy for us to criticise someone, a young person as well, but I love the fact that someone's taken this on. It's not easy to keep something like this on the road when parts aren't the easiest thing to find, and is using it all the time as well. So apparently it is on the list, and the owner was almost apologetic when showing me the car and was like, oh, I'm really sorry, the interior lets it down, it's the weakest part. There's no apology needed for me, because I think it's just wonderful to see it being used and enjoyed. Now let's talk about what we've got inside here. Just like a lot of other 70s cars, it is very basic inside, and we do have a little bit of gratuitous fake wood trim. First of all, the glove box. Now you might be looking at that and thinking, blimey, there's going to be loads of room inside here, and I thought there would be as well. However, once we get this open, there we go, you'll see that whilst we have got 4 cup holders, we don't actually have that much room inside. And in fact, when we take out the few bits that are in here, so you've got the paperwork, there's probably about, it's probably only about that deep. So what's that, about 3-4 inches, 10 centimetres at most. It's really not as much space as I was expecting. And I don't know, could they have made that bigger? Could they have made that deeper? Perhaps. For me, that feels like a bit of a overkill of space. Coming into the centre here, again, it all stays really simple. You've got your panel, you've got your clock. Again, I love having a clock in a car. You don't always get that as a given in a 70s car, so it's nice that it's in here. Coming down from there, you've got your heater panel. Forgot to mention this as well. This fills me with dread every time I touch it. Look, because it's a little bit, you know when you get that plastic and it's a little bit brittle and you think, I don't want to be the person to break this, who's then going to have to find this obsolete part. So that's very careful. But the owner, I don't think is a smoker anyway. It certainly doesn't smell like smoke in here. So I don't think that's really used. So it's really redundant and it doesn't matter. Coming into the centre here, we have 2 dials in front of us. We have on the left a split gauge where you've got the fuel, the temperature and the oil pressure. And then on the right hand side, we have got the speedo. Now I will say as well, if you're watching this and you are zoning into those small details when we're driving, one of the big problems with these is that the speedos do tend to go, and unfortunately the speedo has decided to give up on the way here today. So you may not see it moving, but don't worry, one of those things that happen, the magic of driving old cars, eh? Now over from there, you've got your washer and you've got your choke. Coming down from there, on the left hand side, you've got your wipers and you've got your indicators and you've got your horn. Put that on so you can have a listen. Going to get in trouble bibbing that about. And that is pretty much everything you've got in here. Now, as you can see here, it's a remarkably clean layout. I really like it. I feel like it's a really uniform layout. Everything feels quite sturdy. You've got a decent sized parcel shelf as well. Bravo to the owner for having a fire extinguisher in the car. It's one of those things that I think that we should all be carrying when we're driving something old, because you never know what is going to happen. And yeah, it can lead to bad things. So I was talking about that engine earlier on. Have a listen as I start it up for you. That sounds quite good actually. Right, let's take it out for a drive and see how it performs. Right, let's go on an adventure. Now this is my 3rd or 4th time of filming this for you lot at home, because the traffic today has been absolutely disgusting. But it has given me a golden opportunity, which was going through the box. Now as you can see there, we're up into 4th gear. You might be wondering when it's happiest. Well, I've been told that it's happiest at 40 to 50. And the owner of the vehicle, Tag, runs a business called Moon Dream Vintage. So that's what he's using it for. He's like those old antiques dealers in the Volvos, and he drives all around the country in this, buying 60s and 70s vintage clothing, mainly menswear. And I said, how is that working out for you? And he said, because it is so enormous in the back, he can get everything in. And he said, because it's so sumptuous and roomy inside, it's a pleasure to drive from place to place. And he does a fair amount of mileage, coming from Lancashire originally, going home to visit family, living in the West Midlands, driving back down here, doing it all in this particular car. And you know what? As I drive it here today, I have to agree that it is a really nice thing to drive. The one thing I will say is though, is obviously it is quite loud inside the cabin at 60 miles per hour, and the speed limit is 60 today, so whoever that is in front of me has decided that speed limits don't matter for them. But due to the aggressive nature of people that have decided to break the speed limit, we'll move over there slightly. What else can I tell you? Well, first of all, when Vauxhall put these together, they were really
considering how much visibility people had, making it feel airy inside, and I think that's a value and a quality that you can pick up in the driving experience today, because as I drive this, immediately I feel comfortable. I'm at a really great ride height, I've got visibility all the way around, those mirrors are shaped just perfectly to see right down the side of the car, and even though I'm in an estate, which could sometimes feel a little bit intimidating and feel quite long and quite large, you don't feel like you're driving anything too cumbersome. And I'm really enjoying the driving experience in a way that I didn't perhaps expect to. I don't know why, but I had it in my head that it was going to feel a little more sluggish, that it was going to feel a little bit heavier to drive, because whilst the power steering became an option in 1973, it hasn't been applied to this, and I thought that, well, I didn't really know what to expect. I knew we had the 2.3 engine or the 1.8 in these, but I don't know. Part of me expected, because it had been used in things that felt a lot more sluggish, that it was maybe going to have that feeling when it came into this, but it hasn't felt like that at all. It's sprightly, I've barely got my foot on the accelerator as we go along, and it's such a comfortable and effortless thing to drive in a way that I wasn't quite expecting, and I really like it. You're going to ask me what I don't like about it. Goodness me, I feel like the glove box could be bigger. I like a decent sized glove box because I like to keep things neat and tidy whilst I'm driving. I like to keep things out of my eye line. Gosh, what else? Well, really, I'm scratching around for stuff, and it would be remiss of me to try and come up with something to say I don't like. It is a really nice all-rounder that can be driven. Perhaps a little bit quieter in the cabin would be nice, but again, you know, we're driving a vehicle from the 1970s. You can't expect the world, can you? I really do like it, and I think actually it's such a shame that Vauxhalls like this are overlooked and people race towards more popular things like the Fords and even the Volvos, and realistically you're getting that same experience of a roomy estate, but you're paying so much more money. Something like this is costing half or maybe even a third of what those more popular models are costing, but actually provides a pleasurable driving experience that I think anybody can get into. And in fact, it feels so modern that I think even someone that's only ever driven brand new cars would be able to find the joy and the value of retro motoring in something like this. I have thoroughly enjoyed today. It has been a pleasure. And I will also say as well that I expected it to feel a little bit tinny, you know, with the doors and stuff, in the same way that I get with my Marina. I thought it was going to feel like that. But actually, when I've handled the bonnet, the doors, the tailgate, everything has felt reassuringly heavy, that has given it an air of quality that I wasn't perhaps first expecting. And I really like that. I think if I'd been at the time and I'd had a choice of something like this or something from the Ford range or something from BM, well, it would have been BL by then, I think I probably would have gone for one of these, because that attractive front end styling coupled with the quality and the driving experience of this, for me, it's a real standout in a way that I wasn't quite expecting, and I can see why people get so addicted to these. Now it's time for me to take the car back. The one thing I will leave you with is I know that someone's going to ask me about the colour of this car, and they're going to say, oh Steph, is it a police car, is it an RAF car? Because these were available for the police and for the RAF in black, but no, it was actually a very different colour, and I'm just showing you a page from the colour booklet at the time there. It was that yellowy bronzy colour, very 70s up in that top corner there. A nice colour, but I think it looks very mean in black, and I don't think it detracts from the originality whatsoever. Now it's time for me to head back. It'd be lovely to hear what you think about these. Have you ever owned one yourself? Did you want to? Have you been out as a passenger? I'll tell you what, have you ever camped in one of these? Because I think I could probably get a blow-up mattress in the back. But anyway, let me know what you think. Let us share your memories in the comment section below. But from me and this beautiful car that sadly is so lesser spotted, take care and drive safely.